Skateboarding for me is a bridge. It's a bridge into the life of youth. And so what I found is that when I speak at youth conferences or high schools or even elementaries, when I have my skateboard, I get down on their level. I'm going to do a trick right here, okay?
You want to do a trick?
Yeah, I'm going to do a trick. I'm going to try a kickflip. I don't know which camera.
Dude, it left the ground.
Yeah. You talked about children and their innocence, right? Mm-hmm. I've had so many times to mentor a lot of young people.
Yeah.
And I run into this problem with myself where in my attempt to help them understand, am I actually hurting them? Am I putting my insecurities or thoughts or ideas onto them and actually not helping them learn for themselves?
Yeah, right.
So sometimes I have to be really careful because a lot of people come, I have a lot of young people that work for me.
Yeah.
So they come to me for advice and I have to be really, really careful because I don't want to give them something which stops them from exploring their own truth.
That's very true.
So it becomes a very I don't know. Have you had to deal with that at all or?
Yeah, we learn best when we do it ourselves too. You can show a person, but until they actually do it themselves, they don't learn it, right?
Right. But I was wondering if you have had that experience where you're like, I want to tell my story, but like I wonder if that's going to shape this person. And the thing is, we don't know if it shapes them in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah.
You're kind of figuring it out, right?
Well, hopefully my story is hopeful. I know it's sad that my friend died, and it
definitely is.
But hopefully, I think I know what you're getting at, and that's I guess that's the tension when you are speaking to a group, and I've heard it said that the three pillars of childhood are wonder, innocence, and the third one is an odd one. You're not going to like it at first. Secrecy. Think about this for a moment. Three pillars of childhood. Wonder. You're always wondering about things. Dad, Mom, what, wow. You're just, you're walking by with a 3-year-old down a path and they're like, look, a slug. Their wonder is just, wow. You know what I mean?
They're wild, yeah.
But now we live in this generation where, you wonder about that? Just Google it. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Where wonder is just watch this tablet. You know what I mean? Like you're getting blue light like crazy and, now the slug is boring. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Innocence. Well, innocence is, of course, a pillar of childhood because children, there's innocence. Yeah, of course, they can be rebellious, and trust me, I'm a parent. I know kids, right? Yeah. But there's an innocence about them that is childlike, And the last one, and this is why I bring this up, secrecy. So at what point, and here's why. We all understand as adults that it would be inappropriate to share certain things with kids.
For sure.
There needs to be a progressive revelation or understanding or epiphanies. You know what I mean? You can't just load kids on with, and that's why secrecy, we need to keep certain things away from the eyes and ears of children because that's just, but of course then the question then becomes at what point do you talk about certain things? And in fact, I think that is a very, very deep conversation. That is a very important conversation to be having because a lot of things are being talked about to our children. I think at maybe sometimes at an early age, I'm not opposed to sexual education. We all went through it, but sometimes I think about that innocence part, and I wonder about at which age we should be telling some things to kids, Yeah.
Becomes a slippery slope for sure, right?
Yeah.
But no, I've noticed that with kids. When they see things, they see it for the first time, they're like, wow. Like the wonder part is totally true. And then as you get older, you start to have layers built on top of it. So you see grass, but like, did you actually look at the grass?
Yeah.
Right? You see the table, but did you actually look at the table? And so it's, it's just trying to pull yourself out of your head and being very present.
These objects just have different meanings and different objectives for a lot of people. We're looking at it as we're going to sit here, talk, eat. Kids going to be like, great, I'm going to climb this thing. Yeah. This is a mountain. In my mind, it's a mountain.
I know.
There's hot lava on the ground.
Yeah. And there's actually something so wonderful about becoming childlike, though. Not childish. I think a man should be mature, but to be childlike. But the thing is, sometimes we mature, we become boring.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We become too strict on ourselves.
Yeah.
And hard, and the idea of making a mistake is out the window. We can't make mistakes.
I know.
We can't act goofy.
There's a quote, it's in like the business community where like some of the most successful entrepreneurs are very childlike.
Yeah.
Not childish, childlike.
Yeah, childlike.
Because they're exploring. They're like learning things.
And what is it like to be childlike? Let's camp on that for a moment. I think it means take risks,
take risks, I
think to be curious. I mean, what are some other
questions?
Yeah, ask questions, right?
Ask questions, like they'll challenge you.
Yeah.
Being totally honest.
Yeah.
Kids will just tell you what they think.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Like I don't get what you're trying to say or whatever, right? So kids are brutally honest.
Yeah.
I have a thought. Okay, so one, you've shared kind of your volunteering, talking, and doing all that. So how does skateboarding, if you don't mind, can you bring one of your skateboards up?
Yeah, for sure.
That has your name on it, and oh, this one is gnarly.
Here, let me do. I'm gonna do a trick right here. Okay.
You want to do a trick?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a trick. Okay. Yeah. So this is my pro board here with Reliance, and it's actually got the plane on it. And this guy Kevin did a great job with the artwork. Okay, so I'm gonna try a kickflip. I don't know which camera is good, but I'll just try it.
Oh, wow.
And that's actually what's called a switch kickflip, which means that it's kind of with the left hand. I'm going to try a 360 flip. So it's going to go a 360 and it's going to flip.
Oh, wow.
I got a trick in me. Okay, let's go.
You got it? Yo, man, lat na tod me.
I'll do an ollie. Yeah, do an ollie.
I said, don't break your leg in Punjabi.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
oh,
come on. That's what I got.
That was good, man. It left the ground.
Yeah, that's what I got.
So does having a rod in your leg affect the skateboarding at all, or?
You know, in the changing of the seasons, in the around November time, sometimes I can feel like almost like an arthritis. Yeah, for sure. But I have felt that the more I actually take care of my body and the less you carry, the easier it is, you know. And so probably around when I turned 33, I got pretty serious about my health. And I started to really cut out some things that I felt were maybe legging me back. And did it for mostly, I'd say partly spiritual reasons, but mostly also just wanting to, I'm young dad in my 30s, wanting to still be active.
For sure.
And
four kids.
You know, and I actually had some back problems, man. My L5 herniated. Right. And came out and sat, and actually my right leg for 4 months was disabled, wouldn't work. And
you had a pinched nerve, or?
Yeah, man, it was terrible. That's talking about another valley. Like when your identity is in this thing, we all have that thing, right? And it's taken away, and you're like going to see surgeons and stuff like that, and you're not sure whether or not this disc is ever going to come back. You know. That was another one of those moments in my life where I had to reevaluate. And it was, this time around, it came down to health. It came down to making some wise decisions as to what you're eating and what you're feeding yourself. And that discipline, it's interesting how when you discipline one part of your life, that discipline overflows into other parts. And I felt like my skateboarding began to hit new levels because I was just disciplining. And so may that be encouraging to any athlete out there or someone who's, really working for that goal, that, discipline is something that I think has a reverberating effect into many areas of your life. Yeah, for sure.
So this is a passion turned career now?
Yeah, so all my skateboards are covered, and travel sometimes is covered and those kind of things. But really skateboarding for me is a bridge. It's a bridge into the life of youth. And so what I found is that when I speak at youth conferences or high schools or even elementaries, so when I have my skateboard, I get down on their level. I resonate with them. You know what I mean? I connect on a deeper level. And so skateboarding for me, and I never would have known that years ago. I would have never chosen skateboarding, but it is something that creates, I think, that wonder for kids.
For sure.
It's that, what's going to happen next kind of thing. Yeah. And I bring in a rail and I do tricks, and on the odd occasion I can actually pull off some pretty decent tricks.
Right. You become one of them.
A crooked grind. I do what's called a crooked grind nollie kickflip out, which is so I go on the rail. I'm grinding on one wheel, and then I take my back foot and I flick it, and then catch it and land it again. Wow. Yeah. And I think sometimes I've just gotten lucky. You know, it's in that moment you're in front of 1,600 people, youth, and it's like, now go, monkey. You know, like skate. You know.
Yeah. You said you were a boarder, right?
Yeah, and so actually, what's really awesome is that it's the beginning of September, so I'm very busy with speaking.
Right.
And the last since Wednesday was the first day of school, I've had 7 different speaking engagements, and I've been skating. So I've been skating a lot, but I've only been skating in front of, like, in schools and school gymnasiums.
Right.
And does your preparation for going to different schools, does it change, or do you have a similar message that you're sending throughout?
That's a really good question. So I actually was a part of something called Youth Speaker University, and they taught, I think this is a good teaching, but for motivational speakers to have one speech. You got a product. It's that one product, and you're always working on that speech, getting it better and better and better and better. And I think that's a good methodology. But after a while, I started to get bored of the speech, personally. I began to feel like it was almost rote. You know what I mean? So I changed up the methodology, and so my method now is like, now I've got a skeleton, and that skeleton is the message of resilience and kindness. And what I have is I have a ton of stories told like hundreds of times that I will supplement according to what a school is looking for, right? And so like this morning, it was the theme of kindness. And so, you know, I took the plane crash and other stories of my childhood, and that speech was very different. If you would have seen what I was speaking on Saturday or on Friday, it would have been like, oh, that's a different speech. And I think that comes because maybe as you get a bit more experienced, and as kind of your palate grows, if you will, because you just have more experience, and I find a freedom to not actually fully know what is going to happen, as opposed to going into a situation and having every single sentence written out.
For sure.
And every delivery. So this, I think for me, is maybe, it makes me more versatile too, because with the plane crash being, you know, quite a gruesome story, going into those environments where you got like 5 to 9-year-olds, you know, you're trying to grip their attention for 40 minutes. But yeah, I just spoke at Centennial to 1,600 students, to Quequitlam to 500 students. I was on the island on Saturday speaking in Nanaimo. And then we did a great event this past weekend at actually Mackin Park, where we had 120 skateboards that were completely blank. And we allowed kids to bring spray paint. We had a spray painter and painting and Sharpies, and they all created skateboards.
That's cool.
And I brought a motivational speech there. And one thing I'm really passionate, I want to talk about this,
please, is
I run a group called Skate Undercover. Now, Skate Undercover is something that I'm super passionate about, and here's why. Because in the Lower Mainland, we belong in one of the richest, wettest climates in North America. We get somewhere close to 180 days of rain per year. That's like 50% of the year. Kids, when they look out the window, they go, oh, it's raining. They go back on their phone, right?
Yeah.
And so here's what I'm passionate about, is that I believe in the Lower Mainland there are undercover areas such as bridges, overpasses that already exist that should have skate parks or a parkour park or a basketball court under. And so what I've been doing for the last 4 years is advocating to municipalities to be aware of the fact that most of their recreational plans don't account for 180 days of rain. Yes, they have drop-ins, they have recreation centers. Awesome. But most things like skateboarding, scootering, and even basketball, you know, you get a kid wanting to play basketball. He's going to have to go online, see if he has to register, or maybe there's a drop-in. There isn't enough basketball courts that are covered, you know, and we have these spaces and places in our municipalities that are already covered. The Golden Ears Bridge on the way here literally has acres of cover. And I've gone to Ani, gone to Pitt Meadows and been like, there's a massive shopping center. If you guys were to put a skate park and a basketball court, parents could drop off their kids and they could shop. But so anyways, finally Port Moody, just about 2 months ago, we presented before them and started to have a conversation with them, and they've given the green light. So the new Port Moody skate park at Rocky Point is going to be completely redeveloped with a cover over it.
That's amazing.
And
That's awesome.
It's going to be actually an Olympic, hopefully, right now we're talking to the Olympic Committee and the municipality of Port Moody to make it an Olympic training facility. And here's why that's needed, is because skateboarding is now an Olympic sport. And the Olympic specifications for rails, ledges, the slants, the width, all that kind of stuff, certain parks around the world are building their skate parks according to Olympic standards. Right. And so that way you can train for the Olympics on obstacles that you know that you're going to actually be skating, you know? Right. And so our hopes is to actually create a skate park that is of Olympic standards. And that to me is just exciting. Cool. And so that's something that I do on the side. I don't make any money off that. It's just like, hey, it's a Instagram page. It's a group of people. And our passion is to see in the next years cities come to grips with understanding that we need to build more dry, undercover, safe spaces for youth.
Yeah. If people do want to get a hold of you to start doing, to get you as a speaker for one of their shows, one of their events, where can they find you?
Yeah, so davejohnson.com will probably be the best way. And then there's just like a contact me page kind of thing. I'm also on Instagram under like Dave Johnson and Skate Undercover. And if people do Facebook, I'm on there as well. But my email is planecrashsurvivor@gmail.com.
The one of a kind.
I thought about switching to a davejohnson.com, but I was like, I'm just going to keep that Gmail.
Part of your story now.
Yeah, I'm guessing it wasn't too hard to get.
I'm actually in the works of writing a book called Stairway to Seven, The Hierarchy of Heaven. So I've probably got about 120 pages, but I want to get that down to about 77 pages. So I'm in the works of some of the things that we talked about, again, connecting geometry and numbers into faith is something I'm interested in.
I just had a thought right now. How come you didn't get into math or stats?
Yeah, exactly. How come I didn't? I think because my interest actually was way later. So the reason why I got interested in the numbers in the first place is during COVID, I was actually an EA at Pacific Academy. And so I spent my day teaching long division and geometry and, of course, also having my faith. And it was during that time period and I was surrounded by 12-year-olds who were asking questions about spirituality and also math and stuff like that. And so that's kind of the birthplace of some of those things that I share with you.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Awesome. What's kind of next for you? Have you charted out what the next 5, 10, 20 years looks like?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, I can tell you what this next season looks like is that we're moving into a great house, and we're really excited about that. So that's just like, and it has a sauna, which I do a sauna all the time. Sauna, that's how I'm able to, people ask, how do you still skate? I'm like, sauna. You got to do the sauna, bro, and fasting as well. Yeah. And so that's exciting. I think I got a lot of speaking engagements coming up. I got signed on with youthspeakers.ca, which is the largest youth speakers bureau of Canada. Sweet. And I'm their only BC rep. They're out of Ontario. So things are busy, man. And I got a few conferences that I'm going to Michigan at the end of the month, and I'm going to Ontario in November. And then usually our family goes to Hawaii in December. And that is what I'm looking forward to, is that I get to go. I actually work with an organization called Eternal Riders, which is a spiritual organization that focuses its attention on the extreme sports, surfing, skateboarding, BMXing. And so that's how I'm just wanting to continue to invest in what matters most, which is God, family, friends, and my career.
I want a tip. If we wanted to become speakers on stage to speak in front of 1,600, 2,000 people, what do we got to do? What's the steps we got to take?
Oh, that's a really great question. What are you passionate about? You got to ask yourself this first question, is there something that you can talk a person's ear off, or maybe sometimes that person's like, dude, you need to stop talking about that. You know what I mean? You're dominating the conversation. You know what I mean? So what is that thing, and are people willing to listen to that thing? And I would say that, yes, I think every single one of us has a seed. And I actually brought, you know what I brought? I brought mustard seeds. Is it some of the smallest seeds in the world? Look at how small those are.
Oh, yeah.
But the reason why mustard is actually illegal to plant in most places in the world is because it's so powerful and overtakes. There's like blackberry bushes.
It's an invasive species?
It's an invasive, man. It's so strong, right? And so every single one of us, I believe, has a seed inside of us, and it's that thing that keeps us going, that just keeps us driven. And not every single one of us is called to be a motivational speaker, but I think every single one of us is called to steward that seed. For sure. And to make sure that seed that plant grows, if you will. You know what I mean? So whatever that thing is for you, that whatever that, you know?
Right.
And but if you want to share that with other people, then I think that every single one of us has the ability to do that. There's some things that I think that would help, which is firstly, if you come with the audience in mind, thinking how does instead of thinking about myself in mind, and that's the biggest challenge for a speaker, is that you come thinking about what am I wearing, how am I feeling, you know what I mean, as opposed to thinking about how can I impact these people, what do these people need to hear. So that's a bit of a shift for most, but I mean, it's a loaded question. I could talk about specific things that you could do as a speaker, but I would say finding your niche, what you're most passionate about, and then get in front of people. Like I always said to young people, in your 20s, don't say no to things very often. You should be saying yes to most things. You know, I've spoken for Slurpee coupons. I've spoken for free so many times.
Yeah.
And then I've also spoken and gotten a lot of money for it.
Yep.
But I've spoken a ton of times for absolutely free because, again, it's that refining process, right? And so I would say if you want to be a motivational speaker, speak a lot. Or just try and find spaces and places to speak, and even go to, like what I did first is I went to my old high school. I said, hey, my name's Dave. I graduated 2005. I got this story. I got no experience, but I'm wanting some. And and they gave me the whole school. 1,500 students was like my second gig, you know? And so there's cases where you go back to your elementary, you know, they might just say, yeah. Now I didn't make any money for it. And then at the end of it, the principal was like, just so you know, I would have paid you this amount of money for that presentation. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to, but but that gave me confidence. I was like, thanks, you know?
Yeah.
And then I had another time where a principal, I was charging a certain amount, and he was like, Dave, I just paid another guy this amount, and I would say you're better, you know? So it was principles along the way that encouraged me, spoke life into me. And definitely working with the Youth Speakers Bureau of Canada, surrounding myself with people who are just levels ahead of me too, is always a good thing. So it's really important, I think, to remain humble, to recognize who you are and not think of yourself too highly, but recognize that this life is short. You don't have much of it. So if you're not cultivating that seed, do so, whatever that seed is, you know?
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Dave.
So good to talk,
Dave,
man.
thanks for
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And give a nice little subscribe to the viewers,
guys.
Yeah, subscribe.
Welcome back to another episode of Unconventional. Today we've got Dave. Actually, Dave's gonna do the shout out. Just gonna say like and subscribe. That's
please like and subscribe. This is the podcast that you want to be listening to.